Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your host, Keith Barney.
Right. High school, most every night.
It's very confusing.
My mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo. What could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
Oh, this will be my sleepiest podcast of all time.
Sleep is for the week.
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly podcast in which we detail David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we are up to Season 4, Episode 18, entitled Death Penalties, plural. This is Out of Practice Podcast, episode number 79. How's it going, Degs?
It's never been more evident that we are living in our own personal time loop. Every day is the same, stressful for no reason, and for all of the reasons. And that's about that. Keith, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why are you so sleepy?
Oh, I have to admit, I have the whitest problems in history. I laugh at myself because I realized last night, a couple of things happened. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, my wife and I are planning to purchase a home, moving out of the city. I mean, look, not out of the city, just across the river into New Jersey. And so at about 1 o'clock last night, I'm like, oh God, can we do this? Are we really going to spend all this money on a house? I'm so scared. Like, I'm 40 years old. I can handle this. And then, so I get to bed super late because I'm not sleeping that well. And then I wake up at about 6:30 and I head into the kitchen and surprise, there's Jillian with an Amazon Fresh order that she is unpacking. I didn't even notice she was gone. Unpacking an Amazon Fresh order that instead of showing up before 7 p.m., decided to show up before 7 a.m. And so, of course, that messed up everything. So I couldn't sleep again all in the morning. So I decided to, instead of sleep, watch The Patriot on Hulu for reasons. So I realized that I couldn't sleep at all last night for literally the most privileged white reasons I've ever heard of in my entire life. My Amazon Fresh order showed up too early. I'm embarrassed for myself. I'm embarrassed for everyone.
Do you remember the old days when you had insomnia, you had to just lay there and hope to God to fall asleep? But now we have so many diversions. The Patriot.
I'm watching an old Mel Gibson movie of all things at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's where your story really took a turn for me. In fact, Braveheart was on the other day. And, there are, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but there are a lot of artists who have been canceled or who have turned out to be just horrific people whose art I still kind of appreciate. Mel Gibson's a challenge for me, though. I don't know why. Maybe just because he just seems so douchey anyway.
Because he's a monster, an anti-Semitic, misogynistic monster?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of monsters, Keith. Doesn't mean they're not funny.
Yeah, no.
Myself included.
It was... I also, of course, because I'm watching a movie, I go down the IMDb rabbit hole, and, that cast did not fare that well in the long run. So, yikes.
I'll say that the other night, then we'll jump into the show. The other night, I also was having, it wasn't so much insomnia as that I just go to bed really late. And, man, Quantum Leap was on, and it was a great episode. And I
do it.
I felt like I was betraying.
You made a deal with Phoenix.
in some weird like oath of listenership, I for that very reason I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this to my promise. So I did not watch it. I changed the channel, and that's that.
Good for you. Good for you. We've made an oath to our audience that you will not watch Quantum Leap until we do our podcast in 9 years, if the world still exists. So look out. Whew. All right. So we have lots, and you guys found your place, right? You're moving out to Philadelphia.
Yeah, we're moving outside of Philly, closer to my family for a trial run at getting out of New York. So that won't happen until October. So, that's exciting. Of course, we're freaking out. Like, did we make the right call? And today we vacuumed. So we're like, our apartment's very cozy now that we vacuumed.
So do you guys vacuum frequently? I am a mad vacuumer. I am a weird person who enjoys vacuuming. It's sort of like mowing, where I can like see the effort. So it makes me feel happy. It helps my OCD.
Yeah, we vacuum quite a bit. We have 2 cats, so it's an exercise in futility, but we try to do it.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a fascinating podcast. Let's go ahead and hear what our listeners have had to say.
Yeah, boy, before we do our How Often Do You Vacuum segment, we'll do
Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas.
I'd like to point out I literally just got out of the shower, which is why I look like a drowned rat.
I want to point out, Jen and I had a giggle about this. We on occasion, we do drinking games here on the Out of Practice podcast when one of our cast members says something crazy, or not crazy. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the new drinking game is take a shot every time Keith goes like this with his little hair curtains.
Well, take a shot is better than take a Viagra shot like last week.
Oh, speaking of that, for listeners, weekly listeners, you'll notice that CEO co-founder Jen is on the line today because she's decided that I cannot be trusted to podcast without her listening.
Can definitely not be trusted. I will have CEO, as I said on the air last week. I'm like, I can't wait for the text from Jen, and I got that text, and it was great. She sort of. When she misses the episode, we'll both get a live text stream, like she's live tweeting the episode, and it was really great to see her horror grow throughout the episode. It was fun.
Yeah, but at least I heard her LOL in the other room, so it's so weird to see her like go running or do some chores or whatever she's doing and be listening to our podcast. I start to wonder, hey, product placement. If you enjoy Coke, you'll enjoy Coke Zero.
Coke Zero. If you're taking Viagra, but you don't want to have less calories, or if you want to have less calories, Coke Zero. It tastes like the real thing.
All right. Are people listening? Yeah. Are they talking to us, Keith?
They are indeed. Okay. A new friend, M. Mazzella3, wrote about the previous episode. I remember watching this episode and thinking, oh, cool. So this is actually 2 episodes ago. This is when Bobby was held captive by New Kids on the Block.
Oh, yes.
He says, he or she says, I remember watching this episode and thinking, oh, cool. So Bobby has to defend himself as if he were in a real trial. But how are they going to have witnesses and evidence? And then, boom, there's suddenly more hostages. Great writing. And I totally agree. And as I said on Instagram there too, it was almost structured like a play where it all takes place in one room. And then, so you begin the story and then you have a couple of people enter and you are able to expand the world a little bit while staying on one set. Good point. Also, from that episode, 2 episodes, nobody cares about last episode, but 2 episodes ago, our good friend Jennifer founding sponsor Jennifer, says a general statement. I was a friend of an ADA in Philly in the late 90s. Same deal as Heaven, 30-ish Ivy School grad. He never went to a crime scene, let alone a police action. Then again, in Philadelphia, you mind your own business. Truth. I think Hellen plays by her own rules is what I'm saying. Which is a really interesting point, because Hellen was there as well as the entire firm was there where Bobby was being held hostage. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of TV contrivance happening there. Certainly, like the negotiation felt like all of it did. It was, it was a member of New Kids and the cast of Deadwood there. But that's a really interesting point. We should have Jennifer's friend on the show, who's an ADA, who can stand up for all the nonsense Hellen gets up to.
I often wonder a lot, especially in hostage situations, because now you see hostage situations on TV and everybody's in SWAT gear and there's a perimeter set up. Yet in television shows and movies, you're right, the ADA and the detectives are always like right up there with all these SWAT people, in like a duster instead of having a flak jacket on it or anything. And that, I just don't feel like that is actually how security perimeters are set up. They could just let any law enforcement officer nearby. I don't know that works that way, but
well, it feels way upstream of their job.
Right.
Because like it's the ADA is not involved until like there's charges made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least until they're determining charges. I mean, obviously, when you have a situation like that, there will be charges.
Right.
But it seems way, way, way upstream of what's happening. I fixed Advil Cam. Did you see?
Oh, yeah. There's another. I love. Nothing gives me more pleasure than watching Advil Cam not work.
That is professionalism. That is true professionalism, guys. This is what
I feel like
you
we'd
are
have
getting
iterated
what you pay
by
for,
now, that we would have come
which
up
is
with
nothing.
maybe a plan B to Advil Cam.
I'm moving, okay? I'm packing up all of our things. In fact, Jillian and we are so excited about moving. We have
You're
packed
packing
up.
before you've purchased a home?
Oh, before we've made an offer, before we've seen it, we are like we are literally 80% packed. What you see behind you is like the few things we haven't packed yet to keep it in the shop.
Well, you know what?
Our
That
bookshelves
positive
are
thinking,
empty.
you know what? That's going to propel you to success, I think.
I think it's more like desperate thinking, because we live in a I'm not exactly sure how to put it, but a garbage apartment. So we
you
literally
got a washer dryer, man. That is big for New York City.
We do, although they are both haunted and broken. In fact, a couple days ago, I had to clear out the coin trap in the washer because it wasn't draining. So I had to pull off the bottom of it and unscrew everything. But in order even to get to unplug the washer, there's like this fake like plywood wall they put up between the washer and the rest of the bathroom. I had to unscrew the wall, pull the wall off, put it into the tub, then unscrew the washer that was like 30 years old and doesn't work. It's not nice. I mean, I said I had a lot of white people problems today, and I do, but our place is not nice. Let me put it that way. Even though we pay a great deal. Apparently, I've killed Mike.
Oh, hey, are we doing, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the washing machine still?
You know what? We've listened to we talked to your weather
for
report.
55 minutes last week. We should give everybody a break. Let's just bounce. What's next?
Oh my Jesus. All right, fine. It is time. Hopefully this will be more interesting to you. We're going to hop back into the time machine.
We are.
To April 9th, the year 2000. Way back 20 years ago, and we are going to ask the eternal question, which apparently is more interesting than my washing machine story, and ask the question, what was happening in...
This day in the basement.
Almost worked.
Whew, we got there. And that's really, at the end of the day, what's important, isn't it? Yeah, last week, I'll be brief. Last week, I talked about starting rehearsals for If I Sing, the the cabaret that I was working on with a couple of friends, and I was able to locate, I think I might have shown this before, but I was able to locate this picture.
Oh, look at that.
And that is my good buddy
haven't
Wes,
seen that.
my good friend Wes, who I talked about, is at the piano. And that's just a group of, you can clearly tell that that's the late night or early 2000s because of all the baggy clothing we're wearing. That was a very baggy fashion.
Yeah,
time.
that is some real 1998, like locked in.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
like
that was, and you can't tell,
very
I'm in the
bright
white
khakis.
t-shirt in the middle there, but I am rocking what I was making an attempt at a goatee. I'm just starting to grow that goatee there, which actually went all the way through too long is the answer to that. So that was, that's my This Day in the Basement. Nothing really exciting happening for a few months. So that's a tie-over from last week. Keith, let's go over to Rochester and talk about This Day in the Basement up there.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was also starting to rock my college goatee, which apparently was like mandatory at that point. And it was the only time in my life I've had a full-on goatee, and it was ridiculous. And I wore it for a good I wore it after that. I wore it into New York for a while.
Okay.
So my first headshots, which I found while we were packing, were my first professional headshots in New York.
Wait, you didn't send that a picture? You didn't send one to me to put up on the screen right now?
I wasn't planning to. This is impromptu. I didn't know there was going to be a goatee story.
Where is it? Is it within reach?
I don't think so. Next week, I promise. I will get the original. But I was laughing because I realized how old I am. Because while I was packing, I found not only those original headshots from 2002, 2003, but the original film negatives, because my original headshots were shot on black and white film.
I remember having those too in the little sleeve in a desk.
Yep.
Man, we are old.
Oh, goodness gracious. We sure are. All right. So I
met you on a bus. We were making $400 a week to tour.
You were making 400. I was making 375.
Oh, and you had a part.
I know. I had a bigger part than you did, but I didn't know how to negotiate.
Far and away. By the way, for those wondering, I have been able to utilize some footage from that tour in order to create some images for Keith is Pompous. So the next time that gets run, get ready.
No, you better not.
No promises. I don't have a DVD player. Otherwise, I would absolutely do that. But I'm looking into it.
Okay, good. I'm never going to do that segment ever again if there's footage from that tour.
But to finish my kind of thought there, we started under those circumstances, and here we are. You're purchasing a home. It's pretty. The evolution has been something.
Yeah, it is. I mean, life continues, regardless. But yeah,
no. Life goes on.
And the crazy thing is, we will still be, when we do This Day in the Basement, at some point, the basement will be that tour.
Yeah.
Which is
bizarre.
Crazy.
You're right.
All right. Anyway.
Soon? Okay. Yeah.
This Day in the Basement in April 9th, 2000 in Rochester. So at this time in our existence, my girlfriend, who was a double bass player at Eastman, she was just then purchasing her professional instrument. Now, especially for strings in the professional world, the instrument is a huge, massive investment that you have to spend your life's earnings on an instrument. And so she, at this point, was buying her lifetime double bass, and I think it cost about $14,000.
Jeez.
And it was 120 years old, and that's sort of what you do, is you buy this old, beautiful instrument. And my aunt, who was a violist, I think had something crazy, her viola was so expensive. Anyway, so she bought this. Her parents took out a loan and bought the bass. And the craziest thing happened in the first month of her owning it. somebody broke it. And
How?
we still, I do not understand I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was on purpose or not on purpose or whatever. And the double bass students, because the bass is just so big that we're not taking it back and forth to the dorm room, they had a practice room that was dedicated to them and like 2 other double bass students that they would share the practice room with, that they could lock and keep. And she showed up one day and there was a hole in this like 1880 $14,000 bass, like right, like hole like the size of your fist. And it was like one of the most horrible days I can remember, just like getting, because I didn't have a cell phone at that point. I just got this message and was like, here, drink. Just like she's in hysterics. Like somebody broke my bass, and it took months to get it repaired because you can't just like slap some Advil tape on that. And it was crazy. So I remember that being a very stressful time.
That sounds stressful.
In my college time, because that was, I can't imagine what happened. We spent all this time trying to figure out what happened, because the double bass has like this metal spike that comes at the bottom that is the stand that you put it on while you're playing. Maybe somebody like hit it with that unintentionally,
like a
but
bayonet?
It was in a case. Sort of like a bayonet, yes, a bassinet. And yeah, professional comedy.
Yeah, comedian?
Look, I did not say that in our pilot. One of us did. It was not me, but in case you're wondering, it sounds like this.
Comedian? Oh, I can match the pitch every time.
Comedian? Anyway, so that was what was happening, and that was scary. The good news is it got repaired. Everything is fine. She has a great career moving forward. Okay. We have done that. Oh, that almost would have worked. I pressed the wrong segment, but it almost worked. We have finished.
This day in the basement.
And now it's time for...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
The number 1 hit on April 9th, 2000 continued to be Maria Maria by Santana featuring the product G&B. I don't think I clocked how unbelievably popular Santana was at that time, because he had a number 1 hit that lasted for like months. Twice. This is the second time he's had a number 1 hit that lasted for months. Again, I was in opera school. I wasn't allowed to listen to contemporary music, but I'm like, wow. The cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about honeybee colonies in peril.
Oh.
Speaking of things that have been solved, apparently. I can't believe
Man, the bees have been endangered for this long? They have been under attack for years now.
Truly. Well, our species is working very hard to wipe out all other species on the planet, and we got an early start. The top movie was Rules of Engagement, starring Samuel L. Jackson and Tommy Lee Jones, which is another one of those like early 2000s, late 90s movies that I don't necessarily remember at all, but it looks good. I probably did see it back in the day.
Yeah, I don't.
Thank you very, very much, Maria.
Never
Maria
was a huge
cover.
Tommy Lee Jones guy.
Really?
I mean, I appreciate him, but he doesn't get me to the movies.
Well, nothing gets me to the movies now because I can watch it on my iPad at 6 o'clock in the morning because I got woken up by Amazon Fresh.
Do you miss Mel Gibson? Do you need your food before dawn? Join Keith in his quest to watch all the Mel Gibson movies while opening Fresh Direct at 5:30 in the morning.
Yes. That was... And it was...
Fresh Flicks with Keith Varney.
Fresh Flicks. Yeah, and meanwhile, like, half the cast is dead. It was a good movie, though.
Oof,
but
sounds dark.
All right, anyway. That brings us to everybody's favorite segment. Get ready. It's time.
It's time for SportsBall.
The Boston Bruins beat down the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-1 with 2 goals from Antti Lackinson and a third from Captain Joe Thornton. John Graham got the win in the net for Peter Skudra. There were no fights. The Flyers beat the Rangers 4-1 at MSG with goals from Mark Recchi, Damon Lankow, Eric Desjardins, and enforcer and future Blues head coach Greg Berube. Keith Primo scrapped with Dale Purington. And don't worry, it was on the YouTubes. You can watch it. This is Keith Primo and Dale Purington fighting at MSG. Oh, yeah. There's John LeClaire. All right, so that was, I mean, to be fair, as a diehard Bruins fan as I am, at this point, I was a Flyers fan because of John LeClaire, because he was the only Vermonter ever to play in the NHL, so I probably watched that game.
Well, you got some trivia today. Only Vermonter to ever play in the NHL. John LeClaire.
That's right, yeah. Well, I mean, he was a big deal. I've watched him play for the University of Vermont in college, because my parents have season tickets now. We didn't have season tickets then, but we watched a lot of games up at the Gutterson Arena in Burlington. And so we watched Johnny LeClaire play, and so we were so excited until he was drafted by Montreal, because they're the devil. But then when they traded him to Philadelphia for Mark Recchi and Eric Desjardins, we were very excited. Montreal, of course, traded John LeClaire, who became a giant superstar in the NHL, and Eric Desjardins, who was an incredible defenseman for like a decade. They traded for Mark Recchi for 5 years. Then Mark Recchi went back to the Flyers. Terrible plan by Montreal.
Man, you have a lot of pet names for these guys. Marky Recchi. You had who was the other guy? Johnny LeClaire.
Johnny LeClaire. What's hockey? You have to have a.
Oh, okay.
Hockey is all about the nicknames.
Okay. What was your nickname when you played?
Tubby. Hi, Cal. Keith. Actually, when I played, like I was super thin. I started playing in a sort of a competitive way, sort of after our tour, when I was like a stick. I was unhealthily thin during our tour, so I started playing.
Anybody remembers the original NES hockey, ice hockey it was called, you could choose from 3 player archetypes. You had tubby, medium guy, and fast skinny. Now, you were fast skinny when I first met you.
No, I was slow skinny.
Oh, well. Advil Cam!
No, I was still slow, but I tell you, I mean, I was never prouder the full season I played in the summer, and where I led the team in goals and penalty minutes.
Interesting. Okay, let's move forward.
I was very proud of myself.
Weather. Can you tell me the weather?
Not about hockey.
'Cause we all need to know. Was it hot or did it snow?
Tell me the weather from 21 years ago.
Hello, practice fans, and welcome to your time machine weather for April 9th, the year 2000. This week, we're talking about death penalties, but the only penalty you'll have to suffer through is that of spring going away and the cold coming back. King of Prussia, high of 43 degrees, low of 30. Rochester, high of 32 degrees, freezing, low of 25. And in Boston, it's rainy, gets up to 60 degrees, hot and steamy like Bobby and Lindsay's relationship, but a low of 22, because I'm guessing Helen Gamble is going to come and put a frigid cool on those goings on. And this was your time machine weather.
Yeah. We have now wasted 31 minutes of your time.
I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
This episode, entitled Death Penalties, is Season 4, Episode 18. It was written by David E. Kelly, with a story by David E. Kelly and Alfonso H. Moreno, who last wrote on Checkmates. It was directed by Keith Samples, who last directed Endgames. Which leaves us only one thing to ask.
What is that supposed to mean?
What's your problem?
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
What would have happened?
Well, we're talking about death penalties, plural, Keith.
Yes.
So we must have two cases that we are defending against with clients who are being put up against the death penalty. And since that seems fairly obvious, I'm going to say that one of the people,
fine.
Yes, one of the people that is about to be accused of capital murder is an old personal friend of Bobby. And the other is an old personal friend of Ellenor. And so Ellenor and Bobby have the A and B case, and they're both defending friends of theirs against capital murder and the death penalties on the table. That's the best guess I can possibly muster.
Okay, well, you heard it here first. An old friend of the firm is in trouble. That's never happened before. What a bold guess.
And we lose one of the two cases.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. All right, well, let's find out here on this episode of The Practice. It is time to switch your computer or phone over to our podcast service and listen to us talk nonsense over this episode.
Yep, click the link below or click on, or camera, whatever the hell you do with a QR code. I'm not even certain, but the kids are using it, I think.
You're adding a QR code every week, but you don't even know how to use it.
I mean, I have a vague understanding. much like most other things in my life, a vague understanding is really as far as I'll go.
Welcome back. And before we do our favorite awards show, we have our favorites. Oh God, my hair. All right, everybody drink. I'm fixing my hair. Here we go. It is time for...
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
We have two cases, both facing the death penalty. One, $500. A mom has Ellenor fly all the way to Philadelphia to unearth a lost rape kit, but then is denied, and his trial is... They can't even test the rape kit, so he is still being executed as we speak. Bobby deals with the demons of pulling the plug on his own mom while defending a client who shot his wife in the head, claiming it was euthanasia, but is convicted of murder too, and so Bobby internally is as well.
Yes, except for they were both not death cases. Only one of them was a death case, but good.
Oh, well, I did my best, buddy. I don't know what to tell you.
No, you did great. Like, that
was one of my more salient ones.
That really was more coherent than usual. But the coherence stops here because it is time for...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present...
OOPSY!
The OOPSYs! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike!
What the hell are the OOPSYs?
Well, they're a fake award show that we do at the end of every episode, which I always explain as if Jackie were actually asking a question, and as if you're not listening to this, you don't know what's happening. But anyway, we start with...
Most valuable.
Well, my exploration of the mother being the most valuable lawyer ends with the fact that it didn't really pan out correctly thus far. As far as we know, the son is still going to be executed. So
That's right.
But nonetheless, we had Ellenor for $500 do some great sleuthing, unearth this lost rape kit, and at least potentially unearth evidence that can be used to get this guy off of death row. So, but we also have Hellen, who won a case that she maybe over prosecuted and was faced with a Sophie's choice. You know, just like last week, in the face of, well, here comes the verdict. They're not offered manslaughter. They don't seem to be keen to convict him of murder one. Do you still want to roll the dice? And she said yes. So my two thoughts are Hellen or Ellenor here, the roommates extraordinaire. And I think, I don't have all the evidence, but I think right now I'm going to go with Ellenor Frutt, because I think ultimately she's going to get this guy off a death row. So I'm going to gamble and say not Hellen Gamble, but Ellenor Frutt for my MVL.
Yeah, and
Advocam.
I definitely Advocam. This is
you need bigger Advil, I think.
I need better tape. I need that's I'm just gonna hold it. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I frankly think Ellenor did the best, like, lawyering for justice, for truth and justice in the American way. But Hellen won her case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I disagree with her case. I would not, politically be on her side. But not only did she win her case, but she got a result more significant than what the jury clearly wanted to do. Jury clearly wanted to do manslaughter. So she, when gun to the head, no pun intended, for the jury, they went to convict even harder than that. So even though I disagree with her political standpoint, she clearly crushed it as a DA. So I'm giving it to Hellen. So congratulations, Ellenor.
The roomies.
For your MVL. Next up.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Oh, that's more fun than it has any right to be.
It's so stupid.
So stupid. The best guest actor. Well, there's some great ones. I actually thought that Bobby's dad, who I can't find on the IMDb here,
Charles Durning,
did some great acting in his two scenes. But I think that we have to go and give it to John Hawkes, who's played it real simple, real easy. I think we're going to see more of him in an upcoming episode. Simplicity is king, especially when you think about all the stakes for this guy who's on death row. And right now, he's not even getting his hopes up because it's been so long, and he's just showing compassion for his mom. It's really heartbreaking in a understated way. And so that's my vote.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of, you guys
are friends?
I don't know if I mentioned I didn't sleep well last night. I'm a big fan of John Hawkes, and I expect probably to be handing him the hardware next week, but I'm going to go with Robert Curtis Brown as the husband who gave that great performance early in the episode. And I do not have a late episode bias. I look at the entire episode before I hand out my oopsies.
Oh.
So I give mine to Robert Curtis Brown. So congratulations.
I'm just going to let you keep talking because it's really, I don't even need to tease you. You're doing it for yourself.
I quit.
We're not getting paid. Can't quit.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Oh, God.
I guess you can furlough yourself, but.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to get a mortgage. I can't furlough anything. All right. And speaking of things we're not furloughing,
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Honorable mention shout out to Kelly Williams this week. I thought she played, acting, as we talk about sometimes, Keith, is a two-way street. It's not just about shooting out your acting, but also how you listen, how you receive, how you react. And Kelly Williams gave a masterclass in that this week. But I'm going to give my best actor, because I'm going to just go quickly before you fully pass out on me. Bobby Donnell, played by Dylan McDermott. I thought he was great. There was some weird editing around his tears, but those tears were there. But he was really focused. Look, the script gave him some weird, mental breakdowns that shot from rational to irrational very quickly, but none of those seemed like they were on him. He wasn't schmacting or eating the scenery. He was doing what he had to do with what he was given, and I think he did so with aplomb.
Yeah, no, I agree. He had to do that weird Freudian slip and play that as a real thing, and he did a really good job with it. I don't think it was a little heavy-handed in the writing, but he did not do heavy-handed with the acting. So I completely agree. Congratulations, Dylan McDermott, for your Fake Award. Coming up next,
the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
First, we will quickly show you up on the screen now last week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady, which was caught in the web. Caught in the web, Tom Brady. Damn, that's funny, Keith. Well done, buddy.
You haven't seen it yet.
And we're back. You've never let me down. This week, I think it stands to reason that we decapitate Tom Brady, we take his head, and we stick it on a creepy mannequin with no arms for Creepy Mannequin with No Arms Tom Brady.
Creepy no arms mannequin Tom Brady. I like it. I feel like I could accomplish that.
Yeah, I feel like that's an easy
burning
one.
Through today. We are burning through, because you can tell I'm dying.
Well, we do know from unnecessary exposition on our own podcast that at least you have a very fresh direct delivery today that you can get to and cook up some lunch.
I sure do, and sure will. Okay, we only have one more thing to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
Look, it's great, man. It is a great episode. Weird. Interesting. I'm more interested about the next episode. The setup for where Ellenor's case is going to go is more interesting to me. I thought Bobby's character, we got a lot of good backstory. It was a little heavy-handed at times, as you mentioned. Both him and Helen's sort of PTSD for various things kind of clouded the coherence, but overall I thought really well, really good. And I think that I want to go with, I'm going to say 7 spare tires. Liked it, didn't love it, but looking forward to the next one. So 7 spare tires is what I have to say.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you gave yourself the one shot for just that last 10 seconds.
I'm just trying something new.
You're covering me fixing my Advil cam. Yeah, no, I agree. I certainly am intrigued about next episode more than I am into this episode. I really like the character beats though. Even though it was ground that we've done before with both Bobby and Helen's history with this, I liked the further explanation, the going further, bringing Bobby's father into it. I feel like hopefully we're building up to a scene between Bobby and his father talking about that incident, because certainly what Bobby had to go through at 15, pulling the plug on his mother because his father wasn't able to do it, is a seminal life event for anybody. So I'm really curious to see the confrontation between he and his father about that, who he ostensibly has a good relationship with. I would really like to see that play out, because they're both really good actors, and I think there's a fascinating scene there. Ellenor's case, we sort of did like Law and Order, Ellenor tracking down the information, tracking down the rape kit, which I found interesting. I like the complexity of the multiple locations and that kind of stuff. Like they're putting it together. So I think, all in all, I think I'm going to give it a 7.4. Because, I want there to be some tiebreakers. So I liked it a little more than you did. I'm going to give it a 7.4 to your 7, which averages out to a 7.2.
Okay.
7.2 tires.
All right.
Well, folks, I meant to hit the play out, but I applauded ourselves.
Yeah, you know what? We deserved it. We got here. We got to the end. So
We got to the end of season 4, episode 18 of The Practice. Please reach out to us on Instagram and Facebook at Out of Practice. Send us an email at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. Check out our blog, outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. And do us a favor. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and you will join the jury and help us find more listeners, which we definitely appreciate. And Mike will tell you how to give us money.
As always, you can donate to the show in one of two ways: a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. You can find the appropriate links to do so in our show notes. We'd like to thank all of our current and future sponsors for helping us keep the show going. We're having a lot of fun, and we're glad you can be along for the ride. And also a thank you to everyone who engages with us on the social media that Keith works really hard on, so please go ahead and check it out. You can also support the show by leaving a review, as Keith just mentioned, but also by recommending the show to a friend who might enjoy our nonsense or checking out The Practice. Now, Keith, I need you to do me another favor this week.
Yeah.
Say a prayer over me. Assure me that I've had a good run and led a good life. Have the nurses leave the room. Ask your dad's permission, then pull that plug, and for good measure, finish me off with some laser sounds.
Laser sounds!